This army is way more powerful than the Legion. And they are coming. Guys, these Voidy guys here, they were featured in the cinematic, and they're all over the place, right? They're going to be in the pre-patch. There's going to be some kind of... They won't be necessarily in the pre-patch. We're going to have those cultists to kill and stuff like that. But what is this Void army, right? Xal'atath, she's hot, and we know that. But what do we know about her plans, really? Not much. Other than the fact that she's now summoned this army, she's coming for us, and we're coming at the same time. That's all we really know right now. So let's get into this one here from our good friend, the Teller of 1,000 Truths, Doran.
Technically, we have the biggest threat to Azeroth ever, way bigger than the Burning Legion, and for the first time, the entire Void Realm is solidified by Xal'atath into one single army known as the Devouring Host. They're being led by the Dominar, the Void Lord light versions, being so powerful that they could never be controlled until now. However, so far, despite the crazy threat of this force, the hype just doesn't seem to kind of be there. I mean, it doesn't really feel like a threat on the scale of Sargeras' Legion, despite technically being more powerful. So let us look at what exactly is the...
Well, I mean, like with the Void, the scariest thing about the Void was always the, you know, the Void Lords, and we just killed Dominancius, right? I mean, we kind of beat him. I don't know if we beat him at his full power, probably not. I still think, you know, a guy who can literally devour an entire planet was probably on a power scale level that we wouldn't be able to defeat, but we did. Okay, we beat him. And then what happens now? So now we got the Void... It feels like we killed the Void boss already. And now we're just fighting his underlings. But I guess with these Dominars and the control that supposedly Xal'atath has over them, maybe they're more formidable now.
Devouring Host, what is their army like? What is their goal? And what can we expect
Looks like a
to
sexy
see
Squidward.
Midnight and beyond?
It's a good
Anything
one, actually.
Warcraft related, Warhammer, Destiny, pretty much any game you can imagine, you can get at the best market prices with my link in the description below on Gamivo. On top of that, I got mobile top-ups, software, a whole bunch of other things.
Try Gamivo.
If you use my code DORON, you will get another discount on top, so click my link in the description and check out Gamivo.
There it is.
So, honestly, not to be negative or anything, but I do feel like there just isn't a crazy amount of hype so far for the Devouring Host. I mean, very close to the Midnight release, and really based on all the parameters, I mean, Devouring Host should actually be more dangerous than the Burning Legion. I mean, the Burning Legion is super iconic, everyone knows about it, but the name Devouring Host so far is very obscure. I mean, technically, it is more powerful, but I really wanted to cover some of the information that we have because this army really does seem...
Yeah, I mean, like, this whole cinematic is kind of on the, like, the scale of what we saw before, what's it called? Not Burning Legion. I'm thinking of fighting the Burning Legion, the expansion, right? When we're on the Broken Isles fighting the Legion. And yes, the Legion always felt more threatening. It was a threat that was lingering for decades, right? We fought them in the Burning Crusade, but we didn't really fight them at their full force yet. And then they finally invade. Yeah, they felt like a bigger threat. As I said before, the reason I feel like why the Void Army isn't that scary is because it feels like we killed the biggest Void guy there is already. And now we're just fighting some underlings that Xal'atath's controlling. Like I said, we'll see how that whole threat plays out, but it's almost like killing Sargeras and then the Burning Legion shows up. Like, well, we already killed your boss. It's not that big of a deal anymore.
Interesting, even though it doesn't really have the same legacy as Sargeras' Legion. So, the gist of the new information is that Xal'atath is now a leader without any competition of the entire Void Realm, and I gotta say, as someone that monitored the lore super closely for like the last 20 years, this is a really strange turn of events as since the Chronicle, I mean the biggest threat in the universe were supposed to be the Void Lords, the crazy powerful guys that cannot manifest themselves. I mean, it was said that they were jealous of Titan's powers, but they were probably even more powerful, and we've learned so far in the saga that they don't even really exist anymore. They haven't existed for a really long time, which kind of makes the entire storyline of Sargeras kind of nonsensical, but that is a topic for another video. What we have learned was that all Devouring Dominancius really was the All Devouring, as he not only devoured planets but also other Void Lords, names of a few we've learned in the war with him. However, Dominancius was defeated by Sargeras in the ancient past, and only his fragments remained, and he was now summoned in the war with him, and we defeated him, and Xal'atath took all his power and ascended to become more powerful than any Void Lord out there.
Right.
It's assumed right now that she took on...
I mean, technically, she would be more powerful than Dominancius, right? If she's got the power of the Dark Heart, she broke Dalaran, collected all those weapons that we had already put in there. She's got all these powerful artifacts collected up in there. And then she put a Void Lord on top of that. So technically her power stack should be higher. Well, he can't get 3. I could get 3K in a second. I'm gonna
Control
get
over
that shit
his
easy
army,
today.
as the army is known as the Devouring Host, so very likely the personal army of Demancius the Old Devouring.
The Dark Heart has Dalaran, Demancius, and a bit of Belladar. True, yeah. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's technically a bigger stack of power.
Completely get why there is no hype so far about this crazy powerful army, and that is because they didn't really give it the justified build-up. I mean, think about it. This army is the reason, like the whole reason Sargeras created his legion in the first place and went on that entire mission. It is why the Naruk have been going crazy since forever, and now, for what appears to be the first time ever, we have a figure like Xal'atath that actually solidified this void energy and all these void minions into one organized army with a structure, bases, and all the logistics. The biggest problem so far with the void was the fact that they're low energy beings, so they can't really be summoned to the material plane. As far as we know, they don't really have a god engine like the Legion, so they can't arrive in crazy large numbers, although Xal'atath is obviously working on this. I mean, that is pretty much the entire point of the saga. What we've learned...
I think that's what she's doing, right? There's that new Void planet that the Void Spire. We're going to do a raid there. I think that's what she's trying to do. She's trying to create like an Argus for the Void, so they can kind of go there and be summoned, and maybe if you kill them, that's where they go. I'm not really sure where Void people go when you kill them. They go back to the Void and they reform? I'm not sure. And that's the thing about the Void. They have trouble forming in our realm, or like summoning themselves into our realm. So maybe that's what that whole Void Spire is about. We don't know the lore behind it yet, but we know she's creating like a headquarters, basically, of the Void there. And we're going to go raid there. That's the first raid we're going to do. We'll see.
Though, is that aside from the minions and all these void crazy
like
stuff
Sam with
again,
muscles.
she actually recruited the Dominar, which previously seemed impossible, as these guys are essentially what the Eredar were in the Legion, like beings like Kil'jaeden and Archimonde. What we've discovered from the beta is that these guys are like second in terms of power, only weaker than the Void Lords, and these guys are absolutely crazy as well. I mean, so far we have discovered the names of 8 of them at midnight, and they are, as you would imagine, Void commanders to be absolutely...
It seems easy to get them in my world. Just ask my Warlock. I call on a big blue buddy all the time. Yeah, that's true, but I mean, if you think about a Warlock... Right, that's like what you think of it, like decades of training and all this other shit. And your character themselves are technically supposed to be very powerful, and the best they can do is summon that little voidy boy, and that takes a lot of work from them. So I mean, yes, you're right that it seems easy, but I don't think it is. I think we're kind of underplaying what a Warlock does when they summon somebody from the void. That's a big deal. What's up, sweetie baby, sweetie Betty? How's it going? Good morning. Yes, look. On terms of power scale, I guess we could say that they're more powerful than the Burning Legion, because it was Sargeras seeing them that led him to form the Burning Legion. And that was the whole reason why he went on his Burning Crusade, was he saw this void and what its potential could be if it was ever kind of manifested and targeted at something. So he went around destroying any form of it that he saw.
Dedicated to chaos. We've learned that for the longest time they had their minions abduct random people from various planets to battle for their own amusement, and just like the old gods, they constantly battle each other for sport. It's like a completely normal thing to them. At midnight they recruit the Horde and the Alliance to battle each other, with one Dominar leading one of the factions. Now, interesting enough, the Devouring Host, despite being the main army of the Void as a cosmological power, is not actually crazy diverse. I mean, so far most of the Void beings we battle have been old gods, and what we've learned recently is that who even knows who the old gods are, and most of the creations have been heavily influenced by Azeroth and Flesh, but this army that we're facing is actually the cosmological void. These are just like full-on void beings. Most of the minions we're seeing are some versions of like void walkers, smaller, larger, void minions similar to the Shy and also void ethereals. It doesn't seem like a crazy army compared to the Legion that had like a gigantic arsenal, but it is important to keep in mind that this might kind of just be the first expeditionary force, kind of setting the ground for the big guns to come in. Now, the Void does work a bit differently. The entire more subtle approach as opposed to Brute Force Legion, but they're kind of similar in a way. They do focus more on causing chaos, mind control stuff, the entire devouring aspect. So far, we've seen infiltrations with the Twilight's Blade.
The Twilight's Blade, those are the guys we're going to fight in the pre-patch. So Blizzard's trying to make them even more relevant. They might just be a throwaway. It feels like this is what Blizzard does with the Scarlet Crusade all the time now. They're just kind of like a throwaway mobs that you just slaughter and then we never see them again. But I'm guessing there's going to be some sort of connection and that the Twilight's Blade is trying to help the Void manifest more on our side.
Yes, from within, the Shadow Guard Ethereals doing their thing, and also even massive
Shadow Guard
constructs
Ethereals
used
too,
by the
yeah.
host to channel dark energy.
See, we don't know what this spire is all about, and that's what I'm thinking. Is like this spire or whatever it is supposed to be like the Argus version for the Burning Legion. It's supposed to be some sort of way that the Void manifests in our realm, or maybe remanifests if we kill it. So it's like a never-ending army that we can't kill off completely,
most important,
unless we destroy it, which will probably be what we do in the raid.
to anchor their presence in the material plane.
Scarlet
You can
Crusade
also
equals fodder,
see this
yeah.
with the pylons, the
True.
Void pylons that Xal'atath is deploying to anchor themselves further. Now, the biggest problem of this army is them needing a power source, because Void beings have an even harder time to come into the material plane than the demons, and you know demons needed a crazy powerful source as well to do it. But that is pretty much the entire premise of this expansion. I mean, the central theme of the army so far seems to be reflected in like consumption and like soul harvesting. If you look at the Legion as an army that like obliterates everything, like brute force destroys everything, well, these guys are kind of similar, but they also try to wipe you out from history like you never even existed. Another big problem is what I said, I mean the lack of hype. I don't know about you, but I do feel a bit more in danger like when the Legion was invading a decade back than I do now, despite these guys having more serious designs, and also so far in Midnight, they're not actually performing all that well. I mean, they're getting pushed out by us almost right out the gate, so I'm guessing Xal'atath probably has a plan B. As I said, I think this current force is kind of like a probe, as realistically the Void is supposed to be crazy powerful, which is kind of why the hype is not really there.
Right. This scene, I still think we're going to get, I don't know, beginning of expansion. I thought this was going to be what the pre-patch looks like, and maybe it still is. But this whole thing of Void raining from the sky and all these guys invading, I thought we were getting Void invasions. We're getting like the cultist invasions, really. I don't know when this is actually going to happen, but I still think it's going to manifest in the game in some way, shape, or form. The sky's opening up, Void shit raining down.
It seems quite possible that the Naaru are going to come in this expansion, and we know the Titans are going to come themselves as well, which literally never hit.
I think this is another reason, though, why we don't consider this Void army to be that much of a threat, because we know the next expansion, right? That's unlike what we had in Legion or the Burning Crusade. We didn't know what was next. But right now, we know these Titan guys is going to be the major kind of threat. We already know that. Aman'Thul and all of his buddies, these guys are the real jerks of the cosmos, and we're going to have to deal with them at some point, and we know they're more powerful than this little Void army we're fighting. So maybe that's why the Void army doesn't scare us as much. Aman'Thul, this guy rips old gods out of planets. Right, so we know he's powerful, and we're going to have to deal with him. Mikey, thank you for the 24 months. I appreciate that, man. And Eggsy, too, thank you for the Prime, by the way. 19 months.
Happened, so something much bigger is definitely going to happen as we get further
Fuck
to
you
the
too.
World Soul Saga. This entire build-up would be crazy for the Devouring Host if all they did was cause a regional problem called Alas, and they are pushed back for good. If you remember, first time Legion invaded, the entire planet was sundered. Second time,
It's confirmed Xal'atath will return. Yeah, we'll see about that. The whole thing with Xal'atath is just we've killed him, I think, 17 times at this point.
most of the human kingdoms were destroyed, and last time we had to imprison Sargeras. So far, don't exactly know what Xal'atath's real plan is, despite knowing most of the story of 12.0. I don't think the plan was really to march in and just occupy territory. We may have set her back a bit, but I think she has something crazy up her sleeve, which is going to trigger all these other cosmological forces to have to come to Azeroth in person. I just hope
Tundra, thank you for the sub, man. Look, if Xal'atath comes
Hello,
back...
everyone.
You know what's going on. We know that we're going back to Stratho. So if we see Xal'atath, I don't think he's going to be a raid boss of any. At that point, it's a fucking meme. I think if we see Xal'atath, we'll see some images or like memories of him making the plague or something like that and shipping it off. Because we're going back to Stratho post-plague. We'll see what it looks like. Post-purge, right? Post the correct way to do things, which was purging. Arthas was right. We all know that. We're going to see what everything looks like after that.
they can kind of build them up in ways where they really feel like an invasion force, just like the Legion. But in a way, I think it is kind of impossible, as the Legion really had to build up all the way from like Warcraft 3. So them arriving in WoW Legion was essentially like over a decade of story build up over and over again. I mean, the Void guys...
I got a question. So wait, the Void can't become anything, then why the hell were the old gods did life and the Void have babies and just spread them around the universe. Well, the void likes to devour. That's just what it does. It wants to eat. It wants to devour everything, infect everything, corrupt everything. That's why the void just wants to spread. It's like a never-ending, I don't know what you would call, like a fungus or something of the universe. So the old gods were sent out by the Void Lords, and they just latch on to whatever the hell they catch on to. So the Azeroth was there, and we got N'Zoth and all these others latched on, and they started corrupting the planet, corrupting the world soul. That's what they wanted to do. Now we realize, like, I guess the world soul was removed from the Haranir, which was, that's where she was, and then put into the center of the planet and imprisoned so that way the Void couldn't fully infect it. That was what happened there. So they're still trying to get to the world soul. That was the Void's goal. It just didn't happen.
Have also been built up as Void Lords, but they were kind of changed last minute into the Devouring Host, so would be interesting to see how all this build-up is actually going to play out in real time. Thanks for watching. Check out a crazy secret that awaits us in Northern by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on real world history, Greek mythology, Titan lore that I've recorded live on site in Italy by clicking on the screen as
nice
well.
Video.
See you next time.
So for all we know, they want to fire up the Sunwell to become more violence. We'll see what the Sunwell actually does. Is it just acting as a portal for them, or is it making them more powerful? I'm not sure. We don't know what their plan is. We know the only thing we know about the Sunwell and how it interacts with the Void was the time that we saw Illyria go there. And right, she went to touch it, and then when she tried to finger pop the Sunwell, bam, all the Void guys came out, and it like super reacted to it. So there's something about the Sunwell and how it reacts with the Void that the Void wants to happen right now. We'll see what all that means. Maybe it's just to weaken the light. They're going to destroy it. Who knows? But it's definitely a play. It's the final tier of the first 3 tiers of Raid. Is the Sunwell, so we'll see where the story goes from there. Overall, nice video, though, from Doran. Maybe Azeroth blessed the old gods, and that's why they decided to just rule the planet. Who knows? I mean, we know that the closer you get to Azeroth, the more influence she can have on you. We know that from the Thragar right now, right? The stony boy dwarves that were influenced by Azeroth and became these diamond-encrusted guys that wanted to serve Azeroth rather than serve the Titans. So we know she can influence people when they get close to her, and we know the old gods were in fact close to her. So maybe that, who knows, maybe that plays a role. We'll see.